Um, in our last conversation, one thing that really attracted me to Resto Pros, and we've helped quite a few people move forward specifically with Resto Pros, is the support, and not only support, but the lines of communication are completely open. Checking in with franchisees and things like that, which I think is a major differentiator. We speak with numerous brands, and the level of support is definitely on the high end. Knowing kind of what's going on with each franchisee, what their thoughts, where their needs are, what their struggles are. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because you know, you hear, and it's been, I believe, in a way, overused, responsible franchising. Well, what is that? And I've seen it kind of take all these different directions, but it really boils down to support and communication. So, can you expand a little bit on, or elaborate a little bit on, how you work with your franchisees?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to tell you, our level of support um almost came by default. I probably was a little bit of a unicorn because I had zero franchise experience. Alls I knew is that there was an owner, they invested money, and we needed to support them.
Right.
No one told me that, oh, we could suggest some things. Nobody said, hey, I came from a business where we owned these properties. We owned these entities, and it was over 100 locations across the U.S. And so if something didn't work out, you went to that location, you supported the team that was there, you put action plans in place. And we just kind of said, hey, we're going to follow up with you, and we're going to right the ship, and we're going to keep moving. Well, in franchising, I said, well, we're going to go support them. We're going to put people in the market. We're going to put people in the field. We're going to have meaningful conversations with our owners because they just didn't buy this franchise to let it sit on the shelf. Text message or phones are always open. Our doors are always open. But to become a better brand, we need to hear from our owners, right, wrong, or indifferent. And as long as you can accept that openness and not know that, you're the master of all the answers, I think your brand can continue to grow in a positive manner. And then it leads, really to some ownership on our owners, right? For example, something came up and I said, did you let anybody know? Well, no. Why not? Well, I didn't know if it would really affect anybody. Well, actually, let's put it out there. You bring a problem to me, I'm going to ask our franchise performance directors. A lot of people in this world call them coaches, um, but they are responsible for between 30 and 35 locations per FPD in our organization, and they are there to just focus on those locations and being able to help. So I think the more that we can communicate to them, hey, put this out to your division or your region, see if they're having these same things, then it's easier to move that needle to correct anything that we need to address.
Love it. Yeah, that's it sounds so basic and so simple, but you guys do a really good job. And even prior to that, it's just this is the anxiety levels are really high. You don't know what you don't know. I know when I started over 20 years, close to 20 years ago in franchising, there was all these things on my mind. Who do I hire? Who do I get for payroll? When do I set up my legal entity? What about all the other legal documents? Do I need a franchise attorney? There's so many moving parts, and we help where we can. But I like that you kind of have that checklist. Putting yourself in their shoes. Basically, many of them have never owned the business before, so really giving them kind of step by step, as you mentioned. These are the things you have to do, and maybe not throwing it all on their plate, but just saying maybe these are the first five things you need to do, and kind of break it down because it does become overwhelming if you've never done it before. And some people may be still transitioning out of a job, or maybe they just left their job, but they got they're kind of prioritizing everything. When do I order the truck? When do I start hiring employees? So that roadmap, that guide, I think, is crucial, and it definitely helps with the nerves and helping them. Helping them, make the decisions. So, yeah, I think that's a great way to go. And, I think, you know, it's, 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 make better decisions in that, we kind of have a plan, and these are the 5 items we have to tackle this week. So that's a big part. And those are some of the questions and that I get concerns like, where the heck do I even start? And I go, well, the franchisor will assist you in that process. Um, what else, stands out to you from a support standpoint with Resto Pro? We'll call it Be Rugged, because you have multiple brands that really go over and beyond supporting franchise owners. There a lot of these owners are first time owners. So what else from a support standpoint are you offering to kind of assist them?
I do think, I think what sets us apart and what allows us to support is the camaraderie and the care, right? I am not just here to take a royalty. We have always said that we want these brands to change people's lives, right? They were doing what they were doing. They invested their money in something, and we want to give them the roadmap to be able to be successful.
You might think validation is just talking to a few owners, but you'd be wrong. Next, we reveal the absolute must-do financial deep dive every serious candidate uses to guarantee success.